Dr-Terry-Wood, and I'm coming to you from my clinic, Mustang Veterinary Hospital in Mustang, Oklahoma. And I am a integrative veterinarian, which means I do a lot of Eastern principles, holistic type, and I do a lot of Western principles also. My goal is just try to do whatever is best for your pet when we're taking care of it. I'd like to talk about vaccinations just a little while. It's a really big topic and people have a lot of concerns about it. And I think there's a lot of clinics that do way too many vaccinations. Some don't do any vaccinations at all. We want to find a balance and find out what's best for your pet. As a general principle, what I try to do is we try to use modified live vaccines whenever possible. And it does utilize very good technology, because what they'll do is they'll take specific antigens that can create immunity and they'll splice them in to a harmless canarypox virus. So the advantage of that is that if you use a completely killed vaccine, you've got to use adjuvants, which is typically things like aluminum, mercury, things that can be very harmful. And so it's very important, if at all possible, to try to use these modified live vaccines. We just the research tends to support that we see a lot fewer problems with that. And again, many clinics vaccinate way too much. I try to keep things to a minimum, do just a core series of vaccinations. And you know, just a rule of thumb is that from a very well respected source, he was telling us that you should never use more than 15 antigens at a time. In other words, like, you know, if you're going on a trip and you want to get vaccinated for everything you might get exposed to, you need to try to spread that out a little bit. Don't get them all at once. And in the pet world, you know, we need to try to keep it to 15 or less, which in my practice is really easy to do because there's quite a few vaccines that I don't use. And I think that that's really, really important. Now, there's certain things like with rabies. Rabies is a killer. It kills people every year here in the United States. And of course, in third world countries, there's many deaths with that. And it's a very serious disease, easily prevented through vaccination. So we need to pay attention to that one and really take care of that. Distemper and parvo, those are some of the big ones in dogs. Distemper and leukemia in cats. These are things that are out there, and if we don't vaccinate, your pet's going to get it, could potentially die. I want to address the issue of titers. A lot of people, a lot of holistic veterinarians are saying, well, we'll draw blood and do a titer. I'll be happy to do that if that's what you want to do. The thing that we have to understand is that just because the pet has a high titer, which means a lot of antibodies to that particular virus, that doesn't guarantee your pet is protected. There are some pets that have a very high titer to a certain virus, and yet they are still susceptible to that virus. There's other pets that have no titer, no antibodies at all. You know, their levels are way down here, but they're not going to get it. The immune system is very complicated. There's two main parts to it. The humoral part, which is the antibodies, and the cellular immunity, which is much more difficult to measure. And so if somebody says, well, look, I really want to do the titers, we'll be happy to do that, but we try to do a good job explaining that, again, if they have a high titer, that's not necessarily a predictor of whether they will survive exposure to the virus. And with rabies, now personally, I'm vaccinated for rabies because I get exposed to it. The state health department takes a good titer for me as being protective. I hope they're right. But as far as the pet's concerned, federal law, if I ship pets to certain countries, certain states, they require a rabies titer in addition to proof of vaccination. But in the eyes of the federal law, they consider that that's not in there, and so they don't even recommend or use titers. So to follow federal guidelines, which we need to do, we need to do the regular rabies vaccinations. And of course, you can always talk to us if you have any questions, but we try really hard to work with our owners and work out something that you're comfortable with and we feel does a good job protecting your pet.